Welcome to the Snap UK podcast, your one-stop shop for all the news, views and opinions from the NFL on this side of the pond. We're back in the doghouse today with Gary, Paul and John. Say hello.
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 Hello, ho, ho, ho.
Sadly, no Jimothy once again. He's been struck down with chronic diarrhea and a severely chafed anus. This week was Thanksgiving week, and there was indeed plenty to be thankful for. Victories for all of our teams.
Hey.
That's something to be thankful for. Seeing Kirk Cousins make a fool of himself.
That means the Patriots won.
Yeah, but they're not that good anymore. So seeing Kirk Cousins make a fool of himself on TV, that's something to be thankful for. Very good. And not being a Lions fan, that's something to be thankful for. Teams on the bye this week, Cardinals and Chiefs. So if you're a fan of those teams, be thankful you don't need to listen to any more of the show. Shall we dive straight into...
They should listen to this show because it's...
Mildly amusing.
90 minutes of pure entertainment.
Well done. That marketing course is really paying off. 3 games there were on Thursday to support Thanksgiving. We'll start with easily the best of these games, which was Raiders at Cowboys, where the Raiders emerged as surprise winners 36-33 in overtime. This one had it all. A 100-yard kickoff return, a Deshaun Jackson long touchdown, and Micah Parsons adding another sack to his season as he surges towards the not just the defensive rookie, but possibly defensive player of the season. Where do you want to start with this one? I think I'd like to point out that Zeke clearly wasn't fit, and Pollard was doing all of the heavy lifting on this team, including the 100-yard kickoff return.
Well, at least it's good that the one thing heavy about the running back stable isn't Zeke himself.
My favourite thing is, maybe because I was playing up against a bloke who had him, that Pollard got nothing for that on fantasy.
Yeah.
For that 100-yarder.
That would only count
return
on your defensive special teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So well done.
It was a great run. To be fair.
Yeah. No, Pollard. We know Pollard is actually pretty good. I mean, he's not Zeke, but he's fine. It's I keep thinking, oh, Zeke's back, and then he's injured and whatever.
Zeke's had a good season, I think.
Oh, yeah.
You can be harsh. I think it's one of those games where the Cowboys got behind, and they're missing a lot of players, weren't they? So CeeDee Lamb's missing, Amari Cooper's missing. Yeah. So that's a big issue, I think. If you get behind early, it's a big issue.
Yeah, of course. So Cedric Wilson and Michael Gallup stepped up as the wide receiving core, but to not have either of the two number ones, because on most teams, Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb are a number one receiver. That's a big deal.
Yeah, but take all of that into account. But this game was lost on penalties, wasn't it?
Oh man, the flags in this game was ridiculous. It was like watching somebody drop stuff out their laundry basket. Every time you turned around, there was another flag.
There was something like 230 yards.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Honestly, I thought you were going to say there were 230 flags, and I wouldn't have been surprised.
And again, you're starting to see the rise of the pass interference call coming back again. We talk about it. I talk about it a lot.
Yep.
But that was a massive cost to the Cowboys. Dak did nothing wrong in this game, did he? 370 yards, no interceptions, without his two made wide receivers.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns.
The Cowboys' defense didn't do awfully after the first quarter. So, really, then it came down to discipline. The game was lost on discipline, wasn't it? Because they'd held them. They were third and 18.
There were 14 penalties on each team. That's crazy. That's absolutely... But it felt a bit like they'd been told, this is a primetime highlight game, you will flag everything that we want to enforce. And they did. They didn't let anything go. No hand fighting for passes, nothing. And it was just too much. It was the one bad thing about this game. It's just... you don't want the referees to be the star of any show, and it just felt like they needed to be on TV.
Well, as a Giants fan who doesn't like the Raiders, I didn't really want either team to win.
That must have been difficult for you.
Yeah, I was hoping for a draw.
The refs were doing a good job of trying to get that to happen.
Yeah, I was surprised at the result in this, though, because I thought the Cowboys would bounce back like they did after they lost last time. So that's 2 in a row now, isn't it, for the Cowboys? They've lost.
They've lost 3 out of 4. Yeah, 3 out of 4.
Yeah, 2 off the back of the bye, isn't it?
Yeah, and no Mike McCarthy this coming week.
Is he COVIDed up?
COVIDed up on.
That might help him.
I was about to say, it might not be the biggest loss for them, but yeah.
Luckily, they're in such a dross division that they're pretty much guaranteed to win that division already, aren't they?
There's a prediction I made which is looking slightly better by the week.
It's not, but Washington are only one game back from them now.
Yeah.
Just when we'll get to them, but actually they're not, and they're not the informed team in their own division.
One game back, but 50% as good.
Yes, agreed. But don't forget, Washington did sneak in last year as well.
We can't.
Well, lots of teams can sneak in now.
Yeah,
it's almost like our fantasy league when most of the teams can get in.
Agreed.
They were held to, 0 points apart from garbage time by the Broncos. This is I know it's a.
They're falling apart.
They're not the team we thought they were. I mean, they would have been third or fourth in the power rankings for our, his power rankings this weekend. They are not going to be third or fourth in our thing. I mean, I know they're leading the NFC East, but
with so many teams at this time of the year, you look at the squad overall and think they should be a number 3 or 4 team overall, and then you look at the injuries and the problems, and you realise how far they drop when you take out the key players.
I mean, I said it last week. We can't keep giving injuries as an excuse because every team's got injuries.
Mm-hmm. But it changes the balance of your team, is what I'm saying. It's not an excuse, it's a subtraction.
I know, but yeah, the Cardinals have been playing without Murray and Hopkins, still winning.
Yeah, 1-2 out of 3.
So, the excuses only go so far. It's also coaching and everything else. And, the Cowboys have lost 3 out of 4. So, yeah, it doesn't bode well. They're hitting a toilet patch of form at just the wrong time of the season.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. It was good to see Deshaun Jackson contributing. 3 receptions, 102 yards and a touchdown. He now has the second all-time most 50-yard touchdowns behind only Jerry Rice.
I like him having the number 1.
Sorry?
I like him having a number 1 shirt.
Yeah.
It doesn't look right. I agree. He's just always reliable, but sometimes you see something. Like, I realise it's a vague reference, but like
that's not like something on this show.
Do you remember William Gallas in a number 10 shirt at Arsenal? It just doesn't look right.
Khalid Boulahou's for Chelsea at number 9, yeah. OBJ at number 3. I think it's his college number, but it just looks wrong.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And before we move on from the Raiders, I would point out Daniel Carlson, 5 for 5 on field goals. He has been money this season. Like, you look at the number of teams who are struggling with kickers. Carlson's been brilliant for the Raiders.
And how quickly the Vikings sacked him off.
Sorry?
Was it the Vikings who had Carlson and released him? Because they drafted him in the 5th round.
Yeah.
Well, just like every other position, people need time to develop. But he has been lights out.
It's sort of this season's coup.
I apologised last week for saying that the Raiders were a contender a couple of weeks ago. And now they're number 9 overall. They're right still in there. So maybe just
they have the potential to destroy other teams' plans. They are not going to be in the playoffs.
If they win the Super Bowl, then you can have all of my winnings I get from Paul.
That seems to.
You're going to enjoy that £16.
I'd have already rinsed him for his other £5, so that'd be fine. So the second of the Thanksgiving games, Bills at Saints, the late game, this one, and sadly a massive blowout. 31 for Buffalo, 6 for New Orleans. Trevor Siemian is 0 for 4 starts, and by the sounds of things, Taysom Hill, providing he gets over his foot injury and his concussion, will be starting this week. He's taking starters reps in training. So the Siemian experiment is over.
Ooh.
And exactly, there's nothing to get excited about.
I mean, I think as well as Kamara back this week.
Kamara and Ingram.
Still questionable at the moment.
Yeah, Kamara and Ingram both set to be back. Basically, they didn't play him last week because I think they didn't think they could win. And so they rested them for longer to help them recover.
But yeah, I mean, it helps when they have their 3 running backs back, as they'll have this week.
Yeah, they certainly lacked everything that you could possibly want. They had no offense, no defense, and the Bills needed this because they needed to start racking up points. When they win, the Bills win by 20 points, and when they lose, they look awful. So,
well, again, they've got the same record as the Cowboys, and they're a heavily fancied team, but then they lost to the Jags, didn't they?
Yeah.
So
and scored 6 points.
Exactly. So, we can read too much into losses sometimes, can't we? What matters is being in the playoffs, trying to get home advantage, and performing when it matters. So the Bills need to catch the Patriots, don't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that is the key. They must be in win mode from now to the end of the season. They're almost in playoff because they want that home advantage.
Yeah.
So
don't they play twice in the next 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Yes. So it's really a key time in the season for them, and I think that's what we've got to remember. There is 7 teams from each division going in, or each conference going in. So it's not as important about what your record is. You know, the Cowboys are in the playoffs at 7-4. They need to win 2 more games.
Yeah.
Whether you think another team from that division might get in, they're in. The Bills are probably in as well, aren't they? At 7-4 in the AFC.
It seems extremely likely, yeah.
So the Patriots are in, you know. So it's about positioning yourself for how do you move forward from this position to win the Super Bowl. If we think the Bills have the potential to win the Super Bowl, it's not about whether you beat the Jets comprehensively and then get on the big hype on it, is it? It's about where you're going to be in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. That's the key.
Yeah, agreed. I think the problem the Bills have got is when they win and they win big, it doesn't matter about the turnovers that Allen has been producing. So he had 2 interceptions in this game and the Saints did nothing. I think on the 2 turnovers, they marched a grand total of 13 yards or something ridiculous, something really negligible. You do that against the Patriots next week or, I don't know, the Cardinals or someone like that in the Super Bowl, or the Chiefs. They're going to take advantage.
But you could argue that Josh Allen is a better version or a similar player to Lamar Jackson. And if you close down the running game, there's nothing else around him, is there, in Moss and Singletary? That is not enough
Singletary
around
had
him.
44 yards and Allen had 43.
Exactly. So if you close that right down and stop him running at key times, then you put pressure on him, don't you? And the Saints did it a bit, but not enough. Not enough. You know, they scored 6 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
It was a waste of time, wasn't it? It's like they'd had too much turkey.
They just couldn't do anything.
The Moss experiment is over. He was a healthy scratch this week. They've gone back to Breda.
Matt Breda.
Matt Breda. But yeah, if you've got Moss in your fantasy team, remove him. He is gone.
Yeah, I like what Matt Breda's been doing, but the running game as a whole for the Bills is just dead in the water. It doesn't work, and that will be a problem for them, I believe. This was so Josh Allen's interception in the second quarter was his first career interception in the red zone. Bear in mind he's been starting since 2018. He had 62 passing touchdowns in the red zone without an interception. That's impressive. Like, of a stat of its own, the fact that no one had managed to pick him off. And every week you see someone get picked off with a stupid pass.
He's been playing the Jets and the Dolphins a lot.
But still,
I think that's really impressive.
I think he's easily top quartile quarterback.
Quartile.
That's right.
yeah. But
the other thing to note with the Bills is they've allowed 5 touchdowns to running backs this season, other than Jonathan Taylor, who scored 5 on his own. Half the touchdowns to running backs have been scored by him against the Bills. Like, when it's going right, this Bills team is the best team. It's just it doesn't go right often enough for me.
Are they flat track bullies?
They might well
a bit like the Titans. I think really are. I think they can crush a team, but actually, it's quite.
You put them under pressure.
You can stop it. You can stop them quite easy.
I still can't get on board that the Bills are the best team in all of football. I'm sorry, I just can't. Yeah, I'm sorry.
They might not be, but there are weeks when they are.
I think when you look through it, you go, yeah, they've got Stephon Diggs and an aging Emmanuel Sanders.
Dawson Knox is back.
Are they the best 2 wide receivers on any team? No way.
Stephon Diggs is class.
No, but I mean, what I mean is they're not the best 1-2, are they?
Oh, no.
So if you go versus the Rams, the Cowboys, the Vikings, so they haven't got the best wide receivers.
Nope.
They haven't got the best running backs.
Nope.
I'd take Rodgers, Mahomes, Brady.
Yeah, there's probably half a dozen
over
quarterbacks
Josh Allen.
Yeah.
So they haven't got the best quarterback.
The defense is great, but not every week.
So what they've got is a lot of B+ across the team, which could be enough, but I can't get on board that they're the best team in football.
I agree. I think, but what they can do is on a day, those B+ players can play they can raise above their level, which is effectively once you get into the playoffs, which they are there, if they can do it 3 times effectively, even 2 times, because they might just look out on a couple of games. They can do it.
And I'm not saying they can't win the Super Bowl. I'm just saying that they're not the best. They're not the best team in football. There's just no way they can be.
No, I think that's fair. It's like I say, the Titans I think is a good comparison. When everybody's fit on the right week, they are the best team on the field. But that week is not going to come around all the time. So I think that's fair. Right, we're going to move on. Thanksgiving is a good time, plenty of food and fun, family, TV, sport, relaxation, celebration and laughter. And then the NFL decided to plonk Bears at the Lions on and ruin it for everyone. This one ended 16-14 to Chicago, and that may feel like it was worth watching because it was a close finish. But in truth, this was two teams showing how not to play football. For the Bears to be entertaining, they need Justin Fields and a run game. They had neither. And for the Lions to be entertaining, they need DeAndre Swift and a miracle. They had neither. This was awful. Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, I think the key thing is really that Matt Nagy's son's okay after all of the badgering at his high school game where all of the opposition children and parents were shouting Nagy out. So, like, the child's welfare is really at the top of my priority list. Look, the Bears don't sack coaches halfway through the season.
No,
they've never done it.
They've said they won't be doing it.
And they won't do it till the end of the season.
And then they will do it.
Oh, they will do it.
And apparently, Nagy doesn't even want to be playing Justin Fields. He wants
because
Andy
he
Dalton.
knows Andy Dalton gives him the best chance to win right now, which he does. He's not entertaining, but he did do enough in this game. When they needed to convert, they did.
We shouldn't really talk about the game. You know, there's not really much to talk about. DeAndre Swift is a massive miss. If he's got a hip issue or something, or back.
Yeah.
So if he's out for a long time, and I think. The Lions, I said a while ago, I really couldn't give a shit if they win or not. And I know you all laughed at me, but, you know, they started with a little bit of hope at the start of the season. Well, that's all fucking gone. They've got no hope at all. They're awful. Goff's awful. They haven't even got that many picks in the draft. They're literally terrible.
The irony being this was one of Goff's best games of the season.
Goff was fine.
Goff is fine. He's passable. Matt Patricia should never, ever be allowed to coach another franchise again because he has ruined this
Matt
team.
Patricia's not there.
He ruined them.
They
are
still in the Patricia legacy because that is.
Man.
He
wasn't there when they got rid of all the players prior to this season.
They're like a poor man's Everton. They took all of those bad players from like Man United, i.e. the Patriots, and they were past it. They just spent all their money on all these terrible players.
Do you know what? They are a American Sunderland.
Yeah.
That's so harsh.
They're playing. They are.
It's true, but it's so harsh.
Especially with Swift out, they're playing David Bellion, and they're it's Nicholas Bentner up front.
Gary Obertan.
Yeah, all these. It's the shit, and it's But yeah, I think. Although, can I just? I've been wanting Montgomery for the Bears to. And I'm like, he did fuck all. And I know it's a short week.
He was good in his first game back, and then he looks a bit sluggish again. But
yeah, it's bad. And I
think nothing going for.
I think the Bears, but both these teams, they just need week 18 to be here, quite frankly, and so they can bin the season off, start again.
They just need it to be September 2022.
Yeah.
So
I think that Montgomery is kind of endemic of the entire team, though. Because it's like could try harder.
Yeah, like he flashes occasionally, but the rest of the time they just don't look motivated. And I think a lot of this stems to the fact that the team know Nagy's not going to be there. They know they're not really in a position to do anything. Players at this point in the season, when they know they can't do anything, why would you put your livelihood on the line by going all out? Why would you do that? Playing for a coach that you know should be sacked, but the management don't want to do it.
How many picks do they have in the draft?
Well, they don't have a first rounder one because it's ours.
You're picking in the draft
because we could have two in the first top 10 at the moment.
Anyone remember that Jimmy Graham's still alive? Just saying, he scored a touchdown. It's his 83rd career touchdown, which is fourth most amongst tight ends.
He did. He ambled into the end zone.
Bad for a 37-year-old or whatever. It is.
I don't know. He looks like he's walked out of some accident. And just
he looks every
around.
inch of a 37-year-old tight end. It's not fun to watch.
John would know.
Well, yeah. Andy Dalton is the first quarterback to start consecutive Thanksgiving games for different teams since who? 2005, 6, and 7. I will be amazed if you get this.
Fitzpatrick.
No.
Vinny Testaverde.
No, even better guess, to be fair. It was Joey Harrington, who started games for Detroit, Miami, and Atlanta over 3 different seasons.
And
what did he do wrong?
Oh, he was just terrible. He was a terrible quarterback.
Was that like the alternative prison or something?
Well, he's going to come up. We can ship you to the penal colony, or we can send you for a year at Detroit, Miami, and Atlanta. He will come up again later in the show, and then you will laugh even harder.
Is that why Watson might be going to Carolina?
Right, let's move on from this shit show. It was terrible. Darnell Mooney was good. That's all you need to know. Alan Robinson, invisible. Right, I'm thankful we're done talking about the Bears and Lions. Let's move on to some proper teams. The Rams lost their third straight game as they came second best to the Packers, 36-28. Matt Stafford throwing a pick six for the third consecutive game, which means he's now one behind Matt Sharp's record of 4 consecutive games with a pick six.
Now, you've got to be very careful to not get on the stat train with the Rams at this game. The Packers are one of the best teams in the NFL comfortably.
Packers were brilliant, but this is not what the Rams need. They need to be winning because they are a bit like the Cowboys. They're hitting the skids at the wrong time of the year here.
At the moment, like there were games when at the start of the season where you could see the upgrade of Stafford over Goff, and then some points during the game, the inner Detroitness of Matt Stafford just can't help but
through.
It comes out. And
The Motor City Madness.
And he's like, yeah. Yeah, I'm just going to just sling it everywhere, man. And it's...
Must fuck up.
Who have the Rams lost to, though?
The Packers.
Thanks.
I can't remember now.
Because
this is where Jim comes in handy.
Because that is important. Their schedule is tough. Apart from the Seahawks, they're in a tough division. Seahawks are shite. Let me just...
we'll get to that.
Your second team?
They're not my fucking second.
He loves them. What is the
fact
Rams?
that DK Metcalf did not help Michael this week. I like that.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
They've lost to, the last 3 weeks, the Packers, the 49ers and the Titans.
Right.
So they've lost to 3 decent teams.
So that's what I mean. In terms of context...
Who have they got coming up?
They've lost to a Titan. Was it Derrick Henry Titans or
3 weeks ago, yeah.
I think.
No, he's been out 4 weeks, hasn't he?
Yeah, so that's a Derrick Henry-less Titans.
Yeah.
AJ Brown had a game, I think.
Who else have they got, Paul?
Jags, Cardinals, Seahawks. That's 2 out of 3 wins.
That's 2 out of 3, you'd think, comfortably. I would like to think that they would win 2 out of those 3. I think they're still favourites to finish behind the Cardinals in this division. I do.
I just think sometimes we just get a little bit overhyped by losses. Like, how many teams... Normally, if a team ends the season with, a... whatever it is, 12-4 record or an 11-5, we go, well, they had a strong season. It's not Jeff Fisher, is it? So it's,
No.
But I think that, teams lose games.
Of course.
They do get injuries. COVID hits,
It's losing on a slide like this, though. It's the 3 games in a row that's the issue, not
they've
losing.
been in the games, haven't they?
Yeah.
The Niners
This was a good game.
Niners didn't totally blow them out, I don't think, did they?
No.
31-10.
Oh, maybe.
Who had Jeff Fisher on their Gary Bingo card?
It does come up every week.
Yeah, Titans 28-16. I mean, this was the closest of the games, but OBJ scored his first touchdown, I guess. That's
if I have to hear about his fucking whiny face.
Matt Stafford in his career has never beaten a team that's 5 games over 500. Ever. I mean, that's because he's mainly played for the terrible Lions, but just saying, he's 0-17 against teams that are that good.
Did Philip Rivers have a child very, very young? We just don't know about. I think when he was about 9.
It's funny you should say that because we didn't mention it before because we moved on from the game pretty quick, but there's been discussions that the Saints should be calling Philip Rivers
Comeback player of the year.
We mentioned it last week, and I still think it's a fucking ridiculous decision.
Of course it is.
Even just to mention it.
This is not. Have you seen Taysom Hill? He's not a fucking quarterback.
Yeah, but it's too late because they're not likely to make the playoffs now anyway.
Anyone can make the fucking playoffs now. There's so many teams get in.
Not Mrs. Rivers with a battered pelvis back in Indiana. Fucking hell. She'd have been hammered into the ground. She's begging for the Saints to call him.
If you look at the playoff picture on the on
It's
NFL,
it's like a Hellman's mayonnaise factory in that house.
Newcastle have scored. Okay, if you look at
It's nothing like watching Newcastle while trying to do a podcast, is it?
But if you look at the NFL.com's playoff picture, the Lions are still in the hunt. It's always been like, so everyone. But if your answer to anything at the moment other than who is going to not make the Hall of Fame in 4 years' time. It's
fair
not. Philip Rivers is not the answer.
Mason Crosby missed a field goal for the fourth quarter. Sorry, for his 9th miss of the season. He'd missed 9 total over the previous 3 seasons combined. He is a problem.
Yeah.
It's time to take Old Yeller out the back and shoot him.
It feels a bit that way. There were a couple of times where instead of going for reasonable field goals of like 45 to 48 yards, they went. They played or they punted, and they made a different decision because they don't trust him.
Yep.
And it's
all wrong.
He's gone all Vinatieri.
Well, they've actually stuck with him.
Yeah, they have.
And not just this season, last season as well.
Aaron Rodgers is a big fan and has basically vouched for him. But in a playoff game that comes down to 3 points, he's going to be the reason they lose rather than the reason they win.
Yeah, no, he should go. But it's just interesting that they have stuck with him.
Yeah, of course.
So often we always talk about the kicker merry-go-round. They just get rid of them, don't they, if they're in bad form.
Yeah. No, well, he's got some previous, but it's not...
Nice to see Randall Cobb, 95 yards receiving.
Randy. Well, it was basically because he didn't play the second half, did he?
No.
So he's
most yards in a game since week 11. When
2015,
2014.
Oh,
97 yards against Philadelphia. I mean, that's a long time. That's 7 years.
Nice one, Randall.
Nice one, Randall. And Cooper Kupp has already passed his career high in yards in a season with 1,161 back in 2019. The guy's just going to keep putting up numbers because every time the Rams fall behind, they throw to Cooper Kupp and he's open all the time. Yeah. He's uncoverable.
He's one of the best wideouts in the league at the moment, yeah.
And Robert Woods getting injured has helped him, hasn't it? Massively.
Of course it has, yeah. OBJ did score a touchdown.
I know, we have mentioned that. John mentioned that.
It's like first touchdown for 2.5 years. It's crazy. Okay, defeat for the Rams breathed new life into the Niners season, which they capitalised on with a 34-26 win over the Vikings. And Jimmy G, other than a terrible interception, actually looked really good in this game.
Jimmy G has always had one terrible interception
every week.
Within the first probably 20 minutes, he always throws a bad interception. He's got the best record, hasn't he, of bouncing back and scoring a touchdown after an interception. He's one of the best at just not caring that he's done it.
It's the mental checklist. Right, now we're fucked up. Let's do this properly.
But it's always been the way. And I think, we've been really clear. And I believe that Lance wasn't ready this season at all. And I think Shanahan believed that as well. I think he really looked at it and went, the upside of this guy could be Mahomes. It could be that kind of player. And if it's going to be that good, then let's not waste it. And Jimmy G's got us to a Super Bowl. Let's just ride with that for one more year. We'll be honest with Jimmy, and we'll try and help his career out as well, and we'll see what happens. And I think that's honestly how he went ahead with the season. I suppose you can see, Jim argues about the injuries a lot, and we've had a few players back, haven't we? Debo, is he the first wide receiver to get 2 rushing touchdowns in a game?
It was... Something like that.
that.
Oh, no, he's the first wide receiver to have 2 games with 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Isn't he injured again, though?
Oh, he's a beast. He'll be back.
Yeah.
And Ayuk's managed to catch the ball as well, which was nice.
Turned up.
The fact that Brandon Ayuk is playing well at this point in the season is really good. Yeah, Debo is also the first 49ers wide receiver with a 1,000-yard receiving season since
Terrell Owens.
Anquan Bolden, 2014.
I love Anquan Bolden.
Oh, I know you do, but that's a long time. My favourite stat out of this weekend...
I thought Kittle would have been there, but I suppose...
Wide receiver.
Yeah.
But Kittle, by the way, invisible in this game.
Well, he's just blocking these days. Yeah.
Seems to be. This was my favourite stat from the weekend, in fact. The 49ers defeated a team at home not named the Rams for the first time since week 12 of 2019.
Yeah, remember we didn't play last season in San Fran?
Well, I know, but it's still, that's a long time.
Yeah,
that's a year.
We didn't play at home last year.
But that's a year, not including last year. That's a whole year.
Yeah.
Oh, that's bad.
The Levi's isn't the easiest to play, and it gets quite hot.
Oh, that is true, I'm sure. This was basically a playoff for the playoffs. Both teams came in 5-5. And the Niners probably needed to win slightly more, I think, because of the Rams, Cardinals. There's 2 teams effectively ahead of them, whereas the Vikings have only got the Packers ahead of them. So I think it was a more important win for the Niners. But they're coming good at the right time of the season. If you think the Cowboys and the Rams are on the slide, the Niners are moving along nicely.
Well, I think, with the way the wild cards are set up these days, you don't once you've got who you think's going to win, each division, you are playing against the rest of the league, aren't you? You're not really looking at the Rams, necessarily. You are looking at the Vikings, aren't you? Because you don't necessarily need to catch the Rams. And back in the day, you would never say more than 2 teams that come out of one division. Whereas now we all thought the NFC West was the division where you could see it happen.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. I just don't know if we can sustain what we've seen over the last 3 weeks.
I think you probably can, as long as your players stay. Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel playing well, and Jimmy G
playing okay.
He's got the best passer rating over the last 4 weeks.
He always has a half decent passer rating.
Like he's playing fine.
But when you only get asked to pass the ball, I haven't even looked, but I'm guessing it was about 25 times.
He passed the ball 26 times.
There you go. So it's roughly the same each time.
Week, yeah.
Because they don't ask him to do any more than that. They don't ask him to be Trevor Lawrence and pass it 40 times.
Now Elijah Mitchell's picked up the slack in the running game. It's allowed him to get back to just being a limited but effective passer, which is exactly what you need.
The most important thing for this game was morale.
Yeah.
Because that was a great morale booster for San Fran. And that's just a destroyer for the Vikings.
It's even worse for the Vikings because they lost Cook. That is huge.
Yeah, so Dalvin Cook's out for at least 3 weeks.
I mean, more importantly, their quarterback tried to take a snap under the guard.
Yeah.
He actually touched the guy in the arse, and the guy was like, what?
Did you not see that Matson actually run over him? He moved him. He physically moved him. And then they had to call a timeout, didn't they?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was so bad.
And they didn't put him in the blue tent. Surely there must be a rule where...
I thought God might have helped him out there.
I don't know. He basically said afterwards that he'd been shouting at everyone and moving back and forth and getting everyone lined up, and he just stood in the wrong place.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that simple. And to be fair...
No, it's not that simple. You've been playing the game most of your life. You know where the fucking centre is.
Well, yeah, just look for the ball. It's usually the easiest way. Kenny Awangwu has joined 2 players. I know, it's a great name. Kenny Awangwu has joined 2 players for Minnesota history as the only 3 now with 2 return touchdowns in a season.
Percy Harvin.
Yes, 2009.
Cordell Patterson.
Yes, twice, 2013 and 2015. Yeah, Kenny Awangwu, look out for him in the future. About 6 years from now, when he's playing for Atlanta, he'll be amazing. Right, I think that's enough of that. Jim will be celebrating at home, no doubt. That's the Niners and the Rams dealt with, and the Cardinals are on the bye. So what of the Seattle Seahawks? Well, they lost a 4th straight game for the first time in the Russ era as what the fuck rode Antonio Gibson whilst shutting down the Seattle run game. It's over for the Seahawks. They're done. It's over for Pete Carroll. He's out of a job. But Washington are clinging to the pack and are actually...
They're in the playoffs.
They're in the playoffs. They are the 7th seed in the NFC, which is what happened before. They just did enough and hung on and ended up in there. The defense is coming good at the right time without Chase Young and Montez Sweat. The offensive line is blocking brilliantly for Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick. This was a revenge game for him, by the way. Did he have 2 touchdowns in the end? 1 rushing, 1 receiving?
He can have these really...
great about games 1 in 3 games. He really turns it on. And that's what they need out of him. And Taylor Heineke, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But he played the underneath game brilliantly. He took the short passes to the running backs absolutely brilliantly. And I think it was Bobby Wagner. He absolutely fixed him by staring at him and then just passed the ball like 2 yards and let the player do the run. That is what he needs to do. If he can eliminate the ridiculous plays, the Fitzmagic plays, and just play sensible, then... he's probably going to be starting there next year. There isn't anyone in the draft worth taking that's better than Taylor Heineke.
No.
So I think he's just extending his career. This was a good win.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really interesting those last 2 positions in the NFC. So you've got the Niners at 6 and 5, and then after that you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams with 5 wins.
Wow. Yeah, that's tight. Right?
So the Redskins may well be in the playoffs at this time.
Yeah.
But it could be the Falcons. It could be the Saints.
Yeah, it could be.
So you're saying, do you get Rivers? Well, yeah, you go and get Rivers. But it's that close. Like, it could be anybody. And that's what's good about the new format, isn't it? Is that it keeps it
I like
interesting.
that it keeps the season alive longer. I don't like that it lets in some crap team into the playoffs. I think it dilutes the playoffs, but it makes the main season more interesting, which is why they do it.
Yeah.
That and money. Obviously. DK Metcalf, he's been basically invisible for 3 or 4 weeks now and cost me my fantasy game, Gary.
Have you seen why he may be a little distracted at the moment.
No.
Have you searched for Tori Lynn on the internet lately?
Who's Tori Lynn?
She's an OnlyFans model.
What's OnlyFans?
It's a website where...
it's a subscription model service for adult workers.
Yes.
That was very eloquently put.
Well, Tori Lynn outed DK Metcalf as trying to... He made her go to Seattle. When she got there, he went, "No, don't come." It turned out he was trying to get women for a foursome. And she outed him as a sort of...
Foursomeist?
Sex pest on the interwebs. And since that game, he has caught the ball 6 times. So it's...
How hard can it be to set up a foursome when you've got that much money? I'm just saying.
Well, as well...
No, give Deshaun Watson a call.
Just depends how much golf you want to play, really, doesn't it?
I do. You've got to play the 4 balls and the pairs, yeah?
But yeah, it looks like the other Seahawks are taking the piss of him on...
I mean, fair enough.
So I think it's also a bit harsh on DK Metcalf because there was one play, the awful interception at the end of the game, where he was wide open and Russell Wilson threw a terrible pass.
Wilson's not playing well either. He still looks like he's recovering from the finger injury to me. It doesn't look right when he throws down the field.
Do you think he actually wants to be there?
No, not remotely. He spent all of last offseason saying, please build me an O-line, please build me an O-line. And then he got injured because he got hit while throwing the ball because the O-line opened up. And he's getting crushed all the time. He doesn't want to be there at all. He's gone. Pete Carroll's gone. It's done. They're in rebuild mode at the end of this season.
We've got to remember the Seahawks were a terrible franchise for a very long time.
Yeah, for about 20 years.
Yeah.
They were terrible.
Yeah. Before the Legion of Boom, they were nothing. They were nobodies.
Matt Hasselbeck.
They were just wandering around their awful neon tops. Honestly.
Pete Carroll's done a really good job to bring this franchise into respectability, and now he's 1 year too late to leave.
They kept too many old players, didn't they?
Yeah.
The team aged. I mean, it's...
What was their rushing this week? Was their lead rusher had 16 yards?
Alex Collins is awful. He's done nothing, has he? Done nothing since he's taken over from Carson. Literally nothing.
No.
It's like they don't have a lead running back.
Well, I'm not sure they have a second running back either. They don't have a run game, which means then it's all on Russell Wilson. And he's not in a position to make these throws. 17-15 is not... they should be scoring more than 15 points with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett on the field, is what I'm getting at. Against anybody.
This feels like one of those delayed things that happens in football. Like we were saying for 5 years that this will be the final year Brady will be at the Patriots. This is the final year the Patriots will get into the playoffs. How long have we been doing this? 4 years now?
5, yeah.
5 years. Every time we've started a season preview, the Seahawks are probably going to drop off this season.
Well, it's true. You're right, though. Alex Collins, 7 attempts, 14 yards.
Yeah. 2 yards a carry. DJ Dallas.
Three attempts, 4 yards.
Ooh, I feel like I could get that. I can't be elusive.
Russell Wilson, 2 attempts, 16 yards.
Yeah.
Total rushing, 34 yards in a 15-17 game.
I know. It's a disaster.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not gone
That's
well.
just not good game management, is it?
No. So I've...
There you go. Nick Bellore replied to a tweet by DK Metcalf, who put a picture of these. He was watching All Dogs Go to Heaven. I guess it's a bad time to ask if you want to be our 4th at Chambers Bay next week. I thought I'd ask a teammate and not only fans.
I mean, that's fair. So you think that's the distraction?
I think he's a bit distracted.
That and the fact the team
and the fact the team is appalling.
The last thing in my brackets for this game was, can what the fuck make the playoffs? Let's not ask can. Will, right now, after the end of week 12, will Washington make the playoffs?
No.
Potentially, yes.
Get off the fence.
No.
That's my job.
I will also say
You're asking a Giants fan.
Yeah, I know. Well, you're not going to make the playoffs.
Might.
I mean, might.
We're in the hunt.
You won't.
Detroit are in the hunt.
So in Detroit. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a resounding no. But at least they're playing well, and it looks like they're making some progress. This is good for them, I think. Right, behind what the fuck in the NFC East, the Eagles and the Giants, speaking of them just now, are lurking without intent. These two franchises met on Sunday afternoon, with the Giants being 1-8 in the previous 9 meetings between them. But it was the G-Men who emerged victorious in an insipid matchup, 13-7.
Yeah, it's great.
Paul's just got his New York Giants top out for me. Excellent. John's got multiple New York Giants tops on. Excellent.
As he's getting them out.
Giants defense ruled this game.
Yeah, lights out.
They were absolutely brilliant.
We have one coordinator who knows what he's doing.
Yes, you do. And then you have Freddie Kitchens.
Big old Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah. Judge has said he needs some time to get his ideas in.
Freddie Kitchens. He had a whole season in Cleveland. They should see what his ideas are. They're not good.
It's I mean, the offense is awful.
I'm sorry, but I've got a really great idea. If you pay a receiver $18 million a season, throw him the fucking ball.
I think that's why Garrett lost his job, because I think you can take a stuttering offense. But yeah, he's like, why is Golladay not getting the ball, quite frankly?
Yeah, so after last week's game...
And the question might be the bloke under centre.
Well, Joe Judge came out and said, we need to get Kennedy Golladay the ball. This is going to be our offense. Unfortunately, he then told the other team what they were going to do. Yeah. And it's like, that's not great management either. But yeah, I mean, I actually think Daniel Jones is going to be your starter next year as well, which doesn't inspire anything, but I think you can build a team without looking for a quarterback, and then the following year put the last piece in. I think actually your wide receiving unit, when they're fit, is really good. I do. You look at the wide receivers.
But
it's been saying that all season.
Yeah.
They've done nothing.
But because Daniel Jones.
Fit. Is it Golladay again? You know, he had up and down seasons, didn't he? At the Lions, he was, and that was playing with Stafford.
Yeah, that is true.
Golladay's not been fit properly for about 8 weeks.
Golladay's never been fit for a whole season.
5 years? He hasn't been fully fit? Like, why pay him $18 million?
I'll tell you
Talented and big, yeah.
I'll tell you why I think Daniel Jones is the issue for Golladay. Daniel Jones has fewer than 250 passing yards in 7 straight games, which is the longest streak for the Giants since Manning in 2008.
Yeah.
Like, he just doesn't generate yardage. Golladay needs a guy who can pick him out when he's open, and then he's big enough to high point the ball and disappear down the field. And it's not playing to Golladay's strength, and that's a shame. But I still think a lot of the pieces are here with the Giants. This is not the season to force another quarterback in. There's no one in the draft worth taking. There really isn't. Not early.
No.
So you keep building. For me, the bigger question mark is Saquon. He had one rush in this game that was any good. We were saying they had one for 40 yards or whatever, and then
32 yards.
32 yards, and then another injured, 8 for.
Haven't they come out and said he's not fully fit?
I know, but how can you have a great burst? He looked amazing on that 32-yard pickup, and then he had 8 more rushes for 6 yards or something. It was bad.
Did in time.
Given, but and as well,
he's had a lot.
What Nate Solder looks like a man who should have retired 2 years ago.
Yeah, he's never looked great for you guys, to be fair.
No.
He's had the odd game, but he's never looked great. Okay, so Jim wanted me to point out that this was everything he's saying about Jalen Hurts, basically.
Yeah. I was going to back him up on this, and the Giants basically made him throw the ball, didn't he? And they stopped the run game. Your run defense was awesome, and then you just picked him off and picked him off and picked him off, and he looked awful throwing on the run.
Yeah. But it's what we do. Our defense is particularly good against mobile quarterbacks.
Also, we've got McKinney, who was a big loss for us last season, bringing in a first-round safety and losing him for the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you say the Giants stopped the run game, but Boston's got 15 attempts for 64 yards. That's 4.3 yards per carry. And Miles Sanders, 9 attempts, 64 yards. That's 7.1. They just didn't keep doing it. They should have kept running. Well,
no, they stopped Hurts running. So the thing is, if you throw
8 for 77 is pretty good. But the team stopped running. They wanted to, but they basically panicked because they were 7 or 6 points behind, and they panicked. And they panicked early, which is a sign of an inexperienced coach. If they'd have kept running the ball, I think eventually the Giants, because the Giants' pass defense is better. So if they'd have kept running the ball, they probably would have had success. Obviously, you're right. They were trying to force Jalen Hurts to throw, and off balance, he is a terrible thrower. Same as Lamar was in his first season. Same as Josh Allen was. Don't forget how awful Josh Allen's throwing was, medium passes, in his first season. He was abysmal. He looked like any one of us. That's fine. I don't have a problem with Hurts getting picked off and having an awful game like this, and I don't mind saying, he looked terrible here. But this isn't on him. This was the play calling. It just disappeared. They were running the ball really well, and they stopped.
Yeah.
It's... Oh, Gary's just pointing out to me that England women's football team are 20-0 up against Latvia's women's football team. I assume that's the final score.
I hope so.
And they say no, never mind.
I think it's good for the Giants that you can,
of course,
208 yards rushing. 208 yards on the ground, and you still win.
Oh yeah,
great.
Yeah, absolutely. I just not
only win, you 7 points. You know, it's nothing.
Yeah, 7 points is nothing,
which is good because we can't score more than 20.
No, you haven't scored more than 20 bar one game this season, is it? You've scored more than 20 points. It's not many.
Somebody put a curse on the Giants from the boat party picture that we'd never be able to score 30 points ever again.
Yeah.
Saquon, they have said, is going to be managing a niggly ankle injury for the rest of the season.
Well, I'd just rest him. What's the point?
Put Booker D in and wrap him in cotton wool.
Look at Carolina. You don't take the risk.
Booker D was all right.
I like Booker D.
The Giants have one or more takeaways in each of their first 11 games of the season for the first time since 2005. That defense is doing all right. They just keep building the offense. Don't panic. I think Joe Judge is doing a reasonable job. I don't have a problem with him.
He's already one game. He's one game ahead of Shermer.
Well, that wasn't difficult.
There's easily a few worse teams than the Giants this year, which must be nice.
I'd like to see us get the new wide receiver more into the game. I've just forgotten his name.
Kadarius Toney.
Proper
fan there.
I had Ivan Toney from Brentford in my head, and I was like, that can't be right. Because once again, it's another sign of how poor Jason Garrett was for us. That we have this gadget player, and we've used him basically well once.
For anyone wondering, Norwich have equalised. The Patriots. Yes! The Patriots took on a weekend.
We haven't won for 13 games. It's like being a Lions fan.
I love it when we come back to a well-organised intro. The Patriots took on a weakened Tetons team, and no one was surprised that they won. But the scale of the beatdown impressed many. This was 36-13 to the Patriots. The Titans have got no receivers, no Derrick Henry. They did have a great running day, which basically you felt like the Patriots let them do and just shut down everything else. They had two rushes over 100 yards, Dontrell Hillard and Donta Foreman.
Donta Foreman's the lead running back now. Hillard went for one really long run, didn't he? So
he's come up from the practice squad, hasn't he? So
but they're on a bye next week, aren't they, Titans?
Yeah, and they need it.
That will really help them, I think.
They need AJ Brown and Julio Jones and Derrick Henry all back soon because they're struggling. They're just going to struggle.
AJ Brown's on injured reserve, due back in December at some point.
Yes, he's got another 2 weeks, I think, before he can come back. They were throwing to no-namers, basically. Nick Westbrook-Ekine.
He's got two names.
Yeah, he has. Cody Hollister, Des Fitzpatrick, who sounds like Ryan's uncle.
Yeah.
He's just Michael Pruitt. That's not even a proper first name. I suppose it's supposed to be Michael, but that's awful. It's just no bit. Jeff Swaim,
Give him his proper name.
3 touchdowns in a game, Jeff Swaim.
Thank you.
Who had 1 reception for 8 yards in a game in this one. Anthony Pfister and Chester Rogers. So it's not a great lineup, is it really? It sounds like it should be up on your wall at your local police station instead of playing for an NFL team. It was the first time the Titans have had no players with more than 25 receiving yards since week 6 of 2009 when they lost 59-0 to the Patriots and had -7 passing yards. I mean, let's not forget how terrible they were. That really made me laugh when I read that. That's awful. Right, we've seen this Patriots plan before, which is have a great defense, have a decent running game, and just let your quarterback do enough. And that is exactly what they're doing. You've got to hand it to Mac Jones. 23 of 32, 310 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 mistakes. And it's the last bit that's key.
Yep.
Because
that's why they drafted him. That's exactly what he was there to. He's there to be accurate and not be a dick.
And they've realised that Nelson Aguilar is not their number 1 wide receiver.
No.
It's definitely, I would say, Kendrick Bourne.
I think it's a toss-up between Bourne and Myers. Myers gets the yardage, 5 receptions, 98 yards, but he doesn't score. He's not a red zone target. He's got 1 touchdown. Whereas Kendrick Bourne, 5 receptions, 61 yards, 2 touchdowns, and one of those catches was insane between 2 players. It was pinpoint from Jones, and it was a brilliant catch. So We said when the Niners let Kendrick Bourne go, he's a good player. He's just
good wide receiver. Yeah.
So, Aguilar, 3 receptions, 20 yards, like you say, I think it's not working for him. But they also don't have the type of quarterback that benefits a Nelson Aguilar. He's a downfield open runner. And Mac Jones doesn't throw the ball like that. That's not what he's there for.
Tight ends are still hit and miss, aren't they?
Yeah, so Jono Smith's been battling injuries all season, which is, like Jono Smith. 3 receptions for 49 yards is fine. But Hunter Henry has disappeared again the last 2 weeks after being brilliant really for 3 or 4 weeks in a row. Yeah. So I think it depends on the game plan. I mean, you know what the Patriots are like. They don't have a season-long plan. They change every week, which is why it's difficult for some players to adjust because there's so much information to take in. But when they get it right after that first month and a half of the season every year, you start to see what you're getting. I mean,
Mac Jones looks really good.
He does.
Yeah. He looks really good, and he's allowed to look really good because you've found a running game that works finally. That took a bit of time.
Yeah.
And your defense,
it's a Belichick really defense.
Good. I thought Mac Jones would struggle without James White to dump the ball off to, but they're just giving it to Stevenson. Brandon Bolden's doing a lot of that work.
I've never been on the James White bus. He's all right. But he's not. He's been anything special.
He's been great for the Patriots. He may not be a great player, but he's been great for the Patriots.
He helps make that offense tick.
Yeah. He was the key component of coming back from 28-3.
He really was, and that's the thing. Like he is a great player, but it's the same as a lot of Patriots players. They're great for the Patriots, and so he knows if he went somewhere else.
You put him in a Lions uniform, he'd be dreadful.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, he must look at Dion Lewis, who went to the
Titans,
went to the Giants, and is now
retired.
I mean, he's
retired
sad the
on
AAF isn't around anymore.
Over the last 3 home games, the Patriots have outscored their opponents 135-33. That's form coming good. Now, the test is the Bills twice in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah. You take that silly game against the Dolphins, you'd be a 9-3 team.
That just bugs me so much. It shouldn't do, but it does. But we're always the same at the start of the year. I think we need to split with the Bills, if I'm honest. I think if we lose both games to the Bills, that's a real knife to the team. But if we can split...
Oh no, how dreadful it be having a team that's 8-6.
Well, I'm just saying...
I think it will matter in the playoffs.
It will matter.
If you go away from Foxborough, especially in Mac Jones' first season, that's going to be difficult. And I think, just getting to the playoffs is a great result, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And having a
where
great...
the journey goes from there, it's all a bonus, isn't it?
Having a great defense and a mistake, an offense that doesn't make many mistakes, that can be enough to get you to the Super Bowl, quite frankly. But
aside from the running game, the key thing as well has been Nick Folk has been amazing. He's had 5 field goals of more than 50 yards this season, which is most since Gostkowski in 2013. But he's basically been accurate everywhere from inside 50 all season. So even when Mac Jones doesn't get to the red zone, and a lot of the time he's been coming up a little bit short, they take the kick. They very rarely punt. They just take the kick and rack up the 3 points and then assume the defence will get the ball back. And it works.
And that just takes pressure off Mac Jones, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a
we don't expect you to score a touchdown. If I was looking at their stats, 10 points every quarter.
Yeah.
Just score between 7 and 10 points every quarter, Mac. That'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll win more games than we lose.
Exactly.
It's pretty much. Yeah. You've got to hand it to them. They're doing a great job.
If JC Jackson isn't catching it, he's peanut punching it.
Absolutely. 7 or more interceptions in 2 straight seasons. First player in Patriots history to do that, JC Jackson. And this is why they didn't want to pay Gilmore. But Jackson, free agent at the end of the season. Yeah, they're going to have to pay him.
You've got some money though.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He'll just be shit somewhere else.
You've got a cheap quarterback, haven't you? You've got plenty of money for a few years.
You'd like to think so.
I will say, the Patriots look great. The Tetons though are so bad that they probably only beat the Lions by 3 points.
Yeah, Tannehill was 11 of 21 for 93 yards, touchdown and an interception. Their running game, like we said, was fine, but they need to get Tannehill help. We know he's not an elevator of players. He needs good players around him. And as the team gets weaker, he looks worse.
Oh, but you can't say too much about him when he's throwing to Westbrook, Akini and Cody Hollister.
Oh, yeah. With all the names again.
There's Fitzpatrick, come on.
Anthony Fester. Don't forget him.
But
he's your favourite.
No, I mean...
I agree. I'm just saying, as good as he has been over the last couple of years with the Titans, as soon as you take away all of the supporting pieces, he goes back to being a below-average quarterback because he's not an elevator of talent.
Yeah. But yeah,
I think that's fair.
You've played some really rubbish teams over the last few weeks.
Oh yeah.
So the next 3 weeks is the test.
Who's the team in the middle of the two Bills games? I can't even think who it is. I'm hoping
I'll find out for you.
I'm assuming it's not the Jets. We must finish with the Jets. Maybe the Dolphins.
Yeah, I remember when we talked 3 or 4 weeks ago, and you weren't in such a great place.
Colts.
Worst starts.
Oh, the Colts.
Bills,
you had
Bills.
a tougher. You started with some easy games, did okay, lost the harder games. Now you've won some easier games.
Yeah.
But then we would say would be a harder game. But the Titans clearly were not at full strength, were they? There is nothing in that receiving core at all.
No, there really isn't.
There's no shame in losing that game as the Titans. It's just getting through the week. You're still 8-4. There's still a lot to play for.
But you could be 8-7 in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah, Bills, Colts.
I don't think you will be.
Bills, but then Jags and Dolphins to take you into the playoffs.
It should be fine.
Yeah.
I think splitting with the Bills, at least splitting with the Bills, is key because of winning the division, and we are top at the moment.
Yeah.
So if you'd have told me that week 12, I'd have snapped your hand off for that.
If you only win 1 out of the next 3 games, you win the division.
No, Bills will win the division.
If you get Josh Allen in the weird form he's in with your defense,
pick him off 2 or 3 times. Yeah, it could be. You don't know. You'd like to see that. Right, the Bills and the Patriots both won. So what of the Dolphins and the Jets? Well, the Finns took on Cam and the Panthers and produced their best game of the season to stroll away 33-10, whilst the Jets took on the Texans in this week's Toilet Bowl and emerged victorious 21-14. We'll start with Jets at Carolina.
He's back.
Cam's back. Terrible Cam is back. So he scored 2 touchdowns, but he completed... Was it 6 of 21? 5 of 20? 5 of 21.
92 yards, 2 interceptions.
It wasn't
before he got
great.
benched.
Before he got benched for PJ Walker, who then took 3 sacks on 4 plays or something.
And also through 5 completions from 10 attempts for 87 yards and 1 interception.
Yeah, there was not a lot of good going on under centre for the Panthers. And for me, this just adds fuel to the fire that they will go after Watson. Because I don't think they have their quarterback for next season. I wanted it to be Cam, but this was terrible. It's not even a case of he just played badly. He looked like COVID Cam from the Patriots. That's what John said when we were watching the games. It just looked like when he came back that week after having COVID and didn't look like he'd ever played under centre before.
He looks like a man who's been sat at home for 8 weeks being arrogant.
They targeted DJ Moore 10 times.
Yeah.
Out of those 30 passes.
Yeah.
Like, even I could scheme a defence for that. You see that bloke over there?
Let's
2 of you on him.
Let's see if you remember what happened earlier in the show. Cam had a 23.8 completion percentage, which was the lowest by a quarterback with 20 attempts since who went 5 of 22 for Detroit in 2004.
I've forgotten his name.
Oh, we came up earlier today.
Joey Harrington.
That's it, Joey Harrington. So not only was he terrible for 3 teams, he was really terrible for one of them.
Cam did have a passer rating at 17 at one point, so that went up.
But that's still the famous, the best thing in the NFL of literally, I'll come in on the centre, throw it on the floor,
Spike
33.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot.
Did you see him at half time as well, shouting down the camera as well, like a moron?
Yeah.
I'm not very good.
The thing is, the Panthers now, since Matt Rule's come in, I'm not putting it on Matt Rule, but they've had Bridgewater. They dropped Bridgewater for, I can't remember who.
Darnold.
But Darnold came in start of this season.
They had Carl Allen, didn't they?
No.
He went to the Skins.
PJ Walker.
He went to...
They did have Kyle Allen from.
And then he went to the football team last year, didn't he?
Carl Allen was...
Before.
Was a Riviera.
He was a Riviera quarterback.
Rivera. I can't remember who they had.
It was PJ Walker.
Walker.
Taylor Heineke was there as well at one point.
Yeah, but I'm talking about
Riviera.
Matt Rule. In the last 2 years, they've had four or five starting quarterbacks. They've all flatter to deceive. I mean, is the issue not the guy under centre, but is it the instructions he's receiving, the coaching they're getting? Because not all those quarterbacks are bad quarterbacks.
Is it not the O-line?
No, I don't think it is the O-line. I think what it is Matt Rule thinks he can do more with these quarterbacks than he actually can. I don't think he's a bad coach, but I think he thinks because of how he worked in college, where he turned around 2 terrible colleges with the players that were there, he thought he could do that in the NFL. So he brought in Bridgewater and said, I can make this guy a star. And you can't. You know exactly what Bridgewater is, and he's doing a great job at it. He then had PJ Walker, who'd been a star somewhere else, and he felt, I can replicate that in this league. No, you can't. He then brought in Darnold, who should have been a star and wasn't because he was badly managed, and it hasn't worked. It started off okay, but it hasn't worked. He's then brought in Cam and thought, I can resuscitate him, and he can't. He needs to have a really good quarterback, and then I think he'll be a good coach.
Is it not because they just want Sean Watson? So these people are all just stopgaps?
Yeah, it could be. Could be.
So this isn't the plan, is it? It's just they're waiting and hoping?
It could be.
You basically, though, if that is it, you've wasted McCaffrey.
Well, McCaffrey is wasted.
So he's on IR now. That's it. He's done. You can't come back off IR twice in a season. His durability isn't there, and I'm not sure it ever will be. It just doesn't. They overuse him, sure.
You've wasted him. You've absolutely wasted a star player there.
It feels that way.
So he's turned into Jamal Lewis, essentially.
Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley, I think, is a good comparison. But you take whoever you like. It's not going to work.
This is why they don't pay running backs, because whether you're a catching running back or whatever it is, they do not always last. That's why Frank Gore's so special. The
future Hall of Famer Frank Gore. The thing with this game was this are the 2 teams we think were after Deshaun Watson. And I think on the balance of this game, the Dolphins will be looking at Tua and thinking, do you know what? Like, this guy, it's working. He's 27 of 31, 230 yards and a touchdown. As long as he eliminates the mistakes, he's fine.
If they can, Waddle, he's suddenly looking really great. If they can keep adding to players around him, give him a running game.
It's another college hookup, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, Waddle
I had a few of them.
He did. No, you didn't. Waddle didn't do much at the start of the season, and Tua, it's taken him a long time, but he's only just completed a full season, like this week or next week.
I think that might have been his 15th game or something.
So he's just about completing that first season. I don't think he's been horrific.
No, I've never seen much worse. I think they should stick with him. Yeah, absolutely.
He hasn't been fully fit through that whole time. He hasn't been playing on a really good team. The defense have nowhere near given him as much chance as they should have done, because that defense 2 years ago was a really good defense.
And it's only in the last couple of weeks started to look like the sum of its parts.
Yeah, and the running game at Miami has been terrible. Miles Gaskin finally turned up a little bit this week, but it's been awful.
But don't forget they've added Lindsay. Philip Lindsay is now there.
Oh, brilliant.
Well, actually, he was. 12 attempts for 42 yards, so 3.5. He actually outperformed Miles Gaskin. He just didn't get the 2 touchdown attempts.
If they can help him at running back.
But Gaskin and Lindsay together is much better than Gaskin on his own, is what I'm getting at.
Don't get me wrong, that is true.
And better than Savlon Ahmed.
But there's not loads of stars on that offense for
Tua.
No,
there's not. No.
Devontae Parker isn't the player he was 4 years ago.
He's not playing at the moment.
But he's hardly done anything for the last 18 months.
Yep.
So I think people talk about Tua a lot because he was so big, like tank for Tua. But it's not just him, is it?
No, of course not. Who was their second receiver this week, Paul?
The whitest man in football, Durham Smythe. Who looks like Durham Smythe.
Was he drafted from Eton?
It looked a bit that way. The Zach Wilson butt pass was pretty amazing in the Jets game. So I want to get onto that. So Jets Texans. Great for the Jets that they won. They're now 3-8. But the butt pass, Zach Wilson started to run. So all of the players turned downfield to block for him, and then he decided he would pass it to the running back. After he crossed the line of scrimmage, it bounced off the running back's arse and straight into the hands of an opposing player. And you're like, that's your Mark Sanchez moment right there. That's your butt fumble. That's not what you want to know.
Yeah.
You're doing great. They won, but
I think he looks terrified.
He does.
He does.
He looks
you look in his eyes, child. And he looks terrified.
He looks like a younger Darnold.
He does. He does. He looks exactly the same as Darnold when he was playing for the Jets.
I'm not going to say that there's a campaign to make him look bad, but on the NFL's own app, the Jets are the only team I've not been provided with passing stats.
He does. His passing stats are not there this week. I don't know why, but they're not. But I can tell you he has 4 touchdowns to 10 interceptions this season.
But you got to remember, the man with the most interceptions at the end of his rookie season is now a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, Peyton Manning. That's fine. Peyton Manning had 28 interceptions. He had 26 touchdowns.
He had Marvin Harrison.
He did. I mean, go on, tell me.
You do get the odd exception to the
Yeah.
rule.
Oh, but
you can't go, well, Peyton did it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Peyton is the exception.
the other 20 players that were shit were really shit for a long time.
I mean, it's like, but you can't. It's one of these things where you have to give him a bit of bit of wiggle room because he's throwing to Braxton Berrios with a revolving door.
Yeah, he is. But Zach Wilson at the moment is going down exactly the same path as Sam Darnold.
It's just the Jets.
It's the Jets. It's absolutely the Jets. Houston, I think, happy to lose this one. They've got their 2 wins for the season. They want a high pick in the draft. I don't think they're bothered. They didn't look bothered.
No.
Like, Torrid gives them a better chance of winning, but he can't do everything.
It's still the second worst squad in the division.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're fine.
Who remembered that Tevin Coleman is still alive, running back for the Jets this week?
Well,
he had a good game.
I spoke about him last week, and I said that he should retire because what's the point of Tevin Coleman? And
Well, he didn't do anything at the Niners.
No, he didn't. But Carter is now out injured for the Jets, so he actually did all the. He had 16 attempts for 67 yards this week, which is 4 point something, 4.6, 4.7 an attempt. This is perfectly respectable.
Carter's back in 2 weeks. So
somebody should be using him. He shouldn't be a forgotten running back. And the Jets' defense, 5 sacks. There's nothing on the O-line other than Tunsil for the Texans, so it's not a surprise. But the Jets have got some blocks. It's Zach Wilson that worries me. I don't get it. It's Darnold 2.0.
They need to keep Salah, let him build the team.
I know it was many weeks ago when the draft was, we did our fantasy draft and everything else. Were we projecting Zach Wilson this highly?
Yes. Yeah. Everyone was projecting him this highly.
What, you mean before our draft of who would be drafted in real life or before fantasy?
Before.
So our mock draft.
Our mock draft.
Yeah, he was projected to go high. He definitely went in the top 5 or 6.
I was commissioning, so I don't remember.
John will have it on spreadsheet.
I didn't pick.
We knew that he was going to be one of the top 5 quarterbacks, so that influences people. And that's fine, but I said at the time, he's coming out a year too early. He just, it's too much.
I'm sure he would have gone in the top 8.
He
because
barely played.
There were so many teams that needed quarterback.
That's why he came out.
There's
Because
still quite a few
he
out
knew
there
he'd be
that
a
need
first-round quarterback, and that's fine. Yeah, it's a shame. He just looks like he's wasted already. Duncan's been telling me off for being too harsh on the rookie quarterbacks. But
I drafted him for the Denver Broncos at number 9.
There you go.
There you go.
Pretty close.
Yeah, he just...
But that did mean he was the 5th quarterback picked.
He is in the opposite situation to Mac Jones, and it shows. I don't think the two of them are that far apart talent-wise, but it shows. Right, the Bucs got themselves back on track with a 38-31 win over the Colts, and this game was every bit as close as it looks on paper. It helped the Bucs that playoff Lenny turned up.
Lenny Four Tuddies, as
What?
Broncos called him. That's his new nickname.
It's not.
Four Tuddies.
Tuddies.
Fournette Tuddies.
Sounds like he's had to change his pants 4 times. That's not.
It's Gronk being his moronic self.
Oh, but Gronk did look good in this game.
Gronk-
I had a
Gronk is
McDonald's
great.
yesterday. I've probably had 4 tuddies. Yeah.
Gronk
He
makes
looked
this
angry,
team.
Fournette. He has days where he gets angry, doesn't he? And
He hulks up.
He looked angry, yeah.
It's only a few weeks to playoffs. He's starting to turn up. He could. It would help if Ronald Jones had the same ethos because he's still invisible.
Yeah, he's not great. Tom Brady's already at 30 touchdowns for the season, by the way.
He is, but he has not been great the last three or 4 weeks.
How great do you need him to be? They're cruising
For
to
my
their
fantasy
division.
team, I need him to be better than he is.
I see. Now we get
He's
to the bottom of this.
thrown quite a few interceptions in the last 3
Yeah.
weeks.
Has he? He's got 10 interceptions on the season, something like that.
Well, at least 4 of them are in the last 3 weeks. There's been a downturn, hasn't there?
There has
from the
been.
Bucks. They haven't been.
Bizarrely,
they've not been the same.
he's now the favourite for MVP.
Yeah, but that says more about how everybody else's season's
falling
been up
away.
and
Yeah,
down.
Yeah.
I think. I
it's-
think if I'm honest, the problem with Brady is he hasn't looked so good since Antonio Brown's been out. Like Brown had been the leading receiver on this team. He hasn't looked as good without him.
And for a few weeks, Gronk's been missing. He came back this
7
week.
receptions, 123 yards for Gronk.
He transforms this team.
Peak Gronk is what he looked like. He was bulldozing through players.
Shows the Colts are a real contender, though.
Yep.
Yes, I think it does.
Definitely more than the Raiders.
Yes, absolutely.
That's got to be in there
There was a
every
dig
week.
there somewhere. I think that's only fair. Yeah.
The Bucks' record at the end of the season. Look at the Bucks' schedule. Good Lord. Playing the Falcons, the Panthers twice, and the Jets.
Oh,
That's a team going into the playoffs with a lot of confidence.
you would think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but they're in a bad division, aren't they, at the moment?
Yeah. It's just there's some things like Gronk had 123 yards.
But how many times have we talked about that, though, over the years where the Patriots had a terrible division? So that's 6 easy wins. You don't get beaten up in those games, do you?
No.
And then we've argued it for ages. The NFC is so tough.
Yeah.
The playoffs in the NFC have always been so tough. Half the time, the team that gets through to the Super Bowls is peaked. They've had to peak to
True.
to really get to that key moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why has Mike Evans gone invisible as well? Yeah.
Gronk's back.
Is that literally what it is?
I think
three
so.
receptions for 16 yards. I don't know.
He's such a bastard in fantasy because the moment I drop him, he'll get 3 touchdowns and 100 yards.
Yeah. The Colts should take a lot of confidence from this game. I know nobody does moral victories. I get it. But a bit like the Patriots earlier in the season, they hung in with what is supposed to be the best squad according to most people in the NFL. They were right there until the end. They had a great kickoff return because we said when Fournette scored, they've left time on the clock. And we'd had this same conversation not 2 minutes before about the Colts. They left Brady 2 minutes on the clock. Brady marches them down the field. They score. We've all seen it before. And the Bucs kick off and then allow, like a 60-yard return. And you're like, oh, this is on here.
I really like the Colts. I think if Wentz plays well, then they've got a chance against anybody because
he's a bit erratic.
I like their receiving core. It's young and a little bit inexperienced. They do make mistakes, but they've got a lot of talent. Pittman is a good player. They've still got T.Y. He scored a touchdown this week. And then Pascal still looks good as well. And then you've got Jonathan Taylor, which a lot of people are saying is in the hunt for MVP as well.
There is no standout candidate for MVP, and that is when running backs can win it. If there isn't a standout quarterback, running backs suddenly look even more impressive. It would have been
Derrick Henry if he'd stayed fit.
Yeah, probably.
Is that the case though? Because I would just look at the Ballon d'Or, and there's no standout player. So what happens is they just pick the player that they.
Do we want to just?
So you pick a Messi, and it's the same. They'll pick a Brady.
It's the wrong place to talk about this, but Messi winning the Ballon d'Or is a joke.
Yeah, well, the Ballon d'Or's a joke.
Hold up. So he did score 40 goals last year, and he won Argentina's first Copa for 28 years.
Yeah.
And
have you seen him for Paris Saint-Germain this year?
Yeah, but it's not about.
He's only got one more goal than me.
Yeah, but it's not about this year, is it? It's about last season.
It's a terrible decision.
Lewandowski should have won it the year before when there was no ceremony. So I'm not saying that, but Messi was always going to win it because he won his first international trophy.
Yeah,
it's always going to happen.
But I think it could be the case if there's no standout prospect. What will happen is it will go to Brady because people go, well, there was no one, and Brady.
I think Rodgers could still win it.
Yeah, I think Rodgers
could still win it, but it'll be a name.
A pre-existing winner will win it.
Yeah.
John doing a great job there of bringing it back round to the NFL. Okay, who is second in the NFC South right now? That's right, it's the Falcons. Despite being awful most of the year, they're in the wild card spot, I think, following a 21-14 win over the lowly Jags. It's all about Patterson. When Cordero Patterson is on song, this team can put up enough points. When he's not there, they can't do anything. Don't forget this team had scored, 9 points in their last 3 games. And then all of a sudden, it's 21-14. All right, it's the Jags, but it's another win. So it's all you got to do.
Yeah. They're an awful team, the Falcons. Let's kid about it. Patterson gives them a chance of winning, but that's not like Pitts has vanished again. He looked good. He started all right, seemed to get well, and then he's just dropped off a cliff.
You know what? There's a reason for that, though. I would say, and that's the fact Calvin Ridley isn't there.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
So they know they can just double team Pitts, and he's not very experienced with that. It's probably, it's hurting him.
He's not experienced being double teamed, no?
It's hurting him, definitely. And Russell Gage is doing okay.
Well,
he's not a number 1 wide receiver, is he? So
he should call.
How do you gauge his
Metcalf
performances without Calvin Ridley? Just saying.
I think, reasonable.
I'm very disappointed in that terrible pun.
Only because you didn't get there first.
I'm still stuck on double teaming.
I've heard that about you.
I would say the offense is missing some key pieces.
Yeah.
Mike Davis has not been good.
We put that to bed in week 5.
And obviously everyone was fighting over him in fantasy at one point at the start of the season.
Look at the size of his thighs, man.
I think, Matt Ryan's done really well with what he's got left on that offense.
Yeah.
The defense, we know, just cannot stop anything. So
apart from the Jags.
Well, yeah, but they're nothing, aren't they?
Terrible.
That's the point.
Yeah.
So, it's just, that's the problem they've got. When they come up against a decent team, they won't be able to stop them.
No, of course they won't. So the Falcons hadn't scored a touchdown on their last 23 drives until Patterson scored, which was their longest drought on drive since 2000. Like they have been historically bad. They got nothing going for them. You say Matt Ryan's done okay. Actually, he's not been good, but he's not been good because he's had no one to play with. 190 yards this week, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. But this is what we looked at last year, and we said, will they move on from Matt Ryan? No, they're going to keep him and build around him. This may be the dip year where there isn't enough pieces. And then if they can build up, you get Calvin Ridley back, assumedly, and you build a few more pieces. He's probably good for another 2 or 3 years. But it's like we saw Rodgers go through 1 or 2 really bad years at the Packers. This feels the same. Matt Ryan can't make up for all these pieces, can he? Just can't. He is being rushed behind that line every week, and he cannot scramble. He is such a statue.
Yeah.
So the key thing for this game for me wasn't necessarily the Falcons, it's the Jaguars. You've got a team that was drafting number 1, but a generational talent. This man who's going to revolutionise the quarterback position. Only lost 1 game his entire life. They're 2-9.
Yeah, because they're terrible, because they're making Trevor Lawrence throw 42 passes a week. He got 228 yards, a touchdown and a pick, but 23 of 42. Do you know he has the lowest number of he is, I don't know how to word this. He has, if you look at the weeks he's played, he is the quarterback with the lowest number of bottom rankings, like lower than Zach Wilson. And it's not all on him.
No.
It's on the team.
He does rifle a ball, though.
Yeah, he does.
He does, at times he literally...
There's not a lot of touch.
No chance.
He probably zips it in there.
Like sometimes when it works, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
But sometimes the wide receivers just look like they're going to break their fingers.
But we've bought you Kevlar body armour for
some of that
Lawrence.
Is down to the lack of separation because he's got no decent receivers. And so as soon as he sees a gap, he has to go for it. And then it looks awful.
Marvin Jones did an amazing catch this week.
He did.
That diving one-handed catch was amazing.
It really was.
Gloves.
Well, yeah. Marvin Jones has actually been...
Right. I'll get you a pair of gloves and I'll throw one for you.
He wouldn't catch...
See how you do with your little arms.
I was going to say... He's got catch radius like a turtle.
He's not chunky T-Rex diving.
That's harsh.
It was a great catch, but still gloves.
James Robinson, 17 attempts for 86 yards. He's been fine. He's been the outstanding thing on this offense.
Only thing they've got.
Yeah, it's not ideal. I want to find something good to say about the Jags, but I cannot. Other than Urban Meyer might be going back to college, according to some sources. Notre Dame want him, or whatever. Jim would love to see that happen now.
We all would.
I've just summed up what I think about the Jaguars.
Yes, you have, in this room, not for everyone else. The AFC North played each other this weekend, with the Ravens creeping past the beleaguered Browns 16-10, whilst the Bengals decimated the Steelers 41-10. It's a tight division, but the best 2 teams are rising to the top. We'll start with Ravens against the Browns. Lamar wins despite throwing 4 interceptions. This was his Jalen Hurts game. It wasn't good.
No.
And yet still, the Browns can't win because they should be resting Baker. He looks like one of us. It's not good.
He stinks, doesn't he?
He does.
Absolutely stinks.
I
don't know what's going on with Baker.
He's injured.
He's injured. It just feels like he's plateaued, doesn't it? He's found almost like he's found his level. Where you've seen some of the other from that draft class kick on over the last 2 years. Baker just seems to have just plateaued.
I don't think I think he had his debut year, his rookie year was great. His second year was bad. His last year was, I think, what we can expect from Baker going forward as his best. I think this year we don't know because he's so injured.
But why is he insisting on playing? Because he's coming out every week and saying, I want to play. And he should be coming out now saying, I'm costing myself a contract here because I'm playing injured.
And who's behind Baker?
Case Keenum, who looked fine when he played.
Yeah.
Like,
is that the thing though? Because he is in a contract. He's worried
because he's basically a young Case Keenum.
Case Keenum is just a slightly... Yeah,
he is a young Case Keenum.
Case Keenum is a slightly older Baker Mayfield, and he's just thinking as well, next year he's a lot cheaper Baker Mayfield, and I don't want to give that up, which...
It's the running game, isn't it?
So Kareem Hunt was the lead rusher, and he had 20 yards.
Yeah, but he was only allowed a certain number of snaps, wasn't he? Because he's still not fit.
Yeah, he only had 7 attempts, so that's still only 2.9.
So he's still limited.
Yeah, but they couldn't do anything. Nick Chubb, 8 for 16. Like, if they haven't got a running game, they don't win. I think for Baker to be over 500 as a quarterback, they have to have rushed for 150 yards. If you take away the games where they haven't, he's well under 500.
Yeah, they were running for 200 yards a game quite regularly, weren't they?
Yeah.
But you're asking an injured quarterback to throw 37 times. Why would you expect to win?
It's a terrible idea, but this is
you've got two injured running backs.
Yeah.
Like, how are you expecting to play the game?
Wasn't Kevin Stefanski Case Keenum's coordinator when he went on that run with the Vikings?
Yes.
So why aren't you playing Case Keenum? I do not understand. It's a bad move.
Well, haven't you got that other chap at the Browns, that guy the running back who's been taking the load?
Dearness Johnson.
That's the one.
What
happened to him?
Well,
he's still playing. He's still playing.
He didn't play this week.
He didn't have a single attempt rushing.
Or maybe...
Demetric Felton also didn't do anything this week. Just want to bring that up.
Demetric Felton had COVID.
Well, that's probably why he didn't do anything.
COVID 17.9.
Yeah, look, this was... for me, this was the end of the Browns season. I don't think they're going to win many more games going forward. I know everyone's going to say, they're still in it. They look bad.
I'm sorry. Demetric Felton had one target. I was wrong.
Okay. They look bad. They don't look like they've got a plan for turning this round. It's the same every week. Baker's terrible. Throw it at the running game. If the running game's not up to snuff, they can't do anything.
Go and get Russell Wilson.
At the Browns, no chance.
Darnold.
How would that help?
Be fun to watch.
Just want to shout out names.
Do you not think Russell Wilson would work really well in that team?
He might do, but I don't think he would go there.
I'm not saying he would, but I'm talking like
hypothetically.
Will happen. I'm just saying if you could plug Russell Wilson into that offense.
Yeah, it'd be a really good team.
I'd love to be at the meeting he has with his wife where I know you want to be in films and I know you want to get your entertainment career. Welcome to Ohio.
We're going where the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is, babe.
Lamar Jackson became the first quarterback to throw 4 interceptions and win a game since Week 17, 2013.
Andy Dalton.
It was Andy Dalton.
I'm not sure you can say Lamar Jackson won this game.
No, but he technically gets the win on his stat sheet. But yeah, he did fine in terms of rushing, but he always does. It's the same. 165 yards, 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions, and then 68 yards rushing.
Maybe he still wasn't well. He was out ill the week before, wasn't he?
Yeah.
The shits.
He was. I just think the defences basically had the better of this game, and it showed.
Yeah, two traditionally defensive teams.
Baltimore 8-3, Cleveland 6-6, but the division is so tight you can't afford to lose these games. Whoever was going to come off worse is going to be really struggling. So speaking of which, we should move on to the Steelers, who are now 5-1.
You know, I mentioned earlier around how everybody was expecting the Seahawks to drop off, and now it's finally happening.
Yes.
Welcome to the Steelers.
Yes. There was nothing good for the Steelers in this game. How they got 10 points, I don't really know, because they didn't deserve to. It was pretty.
They're a bad team. They can't. They've been able to get by on Tomlin and the defense, but they're getting no help at all.
Swept the Steelers for the first time since 2009 and scored 40 points against them since which year?
1983.
1989.
Oh, I know it was in the 80s.
It was in the 80s, back when the Bengals were last any good.
Boomer,
absolutely.
Boomer psoriasis.
That's him. The Steelers O-line is terrible. Najee Harris has sort of gone off the boil a bit because he's just getting hit at the line all the time, and they can't do anything really. The podcast doghouse has just been forced open by Storm Arwen 2 or whatever we're calling the next one.
The nice thing, not the nice thing, but for the Bengals, for God's sake, I've forgotten the 2 teams in this game.
Jesus, it's going well.
Jamar Chase is slowed down this season, but they're still getting some results.
Higgins is a wonderful number 2.
He really is, and he benefits from the fact that everyone is now double covering Jamar Chase. But this wasn't about the receiving game for the Bengals. This was about 28 attempts, 165 yards and 2 touchdowns from Joe Mixon in the running game. It was his career day, and it absolutely tore the Steelers' defence apart. TJ Watt was playing.
Yeah.
Like, they had a full-strength defence on the field, and they could not stop Joe Mixon. He absolutely tore them a new one.
Brilliant.
But when you have an immobile thumb at quarterback, for Pittsburgh.
Roethlisberger, 24 of 41, 263 yards, touchdown, 2 interceptions, one of which was a pick six.
2 fumbles, 1 lost.
Yeah, just nothing good at all. The pick six, by the way, was Hilton, who was a Steeler and got let go, and then turned up. That as a revenge pick six, which we like to see. The Bengals, they've got a similar record to the Bills, the Cowboys, but right now I'd take the Bengals over either of those two teams. I really think the Bengals are marching. I think they're good. I think they're a really good team.
I'm very sorry for anything I said about Zach Taylor and his competence as a coach.
Big words. Any more on these two? Right. And finally, the NFC West matchup between the much-fancied Chargers and the up-and-down Broncos turned into something of a walkover for Denver as they won 28-13 at Mile High. Teddy Bridgewater went out of the game. Drew Lock came in and was awful. And then Teddy Bridgewater limped back into the game and completely outplayed anything that the Chargers could do.
I like how Drew Lock has become Paxton Lynch.
It's very, very similar. Do you want to read out the name that you've got on your screen there, Paul? That's why you've pulled it up, right?
No, it just made me laugh.
What's the guy's name?
Isaiah Loudermilk.
Loudermilk. Milk! That's him. What is he and what does he do?
He's a defensive end for the Steelers. It just made me laugh.
Okay.
I wasn't even going to make reference to it.
Just made you chuckle. Patrick Surtain, is he pushing Micah Parsons for Defensive Rookie of the Season?
No. He is good, though.
He's the next best one.
Yeah.
It was his first pick six this week. His dad's last pick six was also at the Broncos. He was playing for Miami.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Fun fact.
But, Patrick Surtain looks really, really good. Got a pick six, and I think, and another interception.
Yeah, first Denver rookie with 2 interceptions in the game since 1989.
Yeah, he's so good.
Also,
but Micah Parsons is just brilliant.
The shine's coming off the apple a little bit with Justin Herbert. This is a second season syndrome, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. But he's been figured out a little bit, and he's made 1 or 2 errors. But basically, when he's sub 500 as a passer, they are 1-5 this season. When he's over 5, they are 5-0. When he's over 100 passer rating, so they very much go as he does because they can't stop the run. Whilst Eckler's been brilliant, you wouldn't say they're a great running team. So they need Justin Herbert to be playing at his peak. Now, they do have Keenan Allen, who just continues to look amazing. He's tied Antonio Brown for the fastest player to reach 700 receptions in the NFL, 111 games. And he just never seems to get a mention as one of the best wide receivers. But what else have they got a wide receiver on this team? Not a lot. Mike Williams.
He's had a good year this year.
He's had a good year, but he's not in the same class as Keenan Allen.
There is a tight end, I'd say.
Yeah, Jared
Cook is...
He's turned up for about half the games this season.
Jared Cook he's having a Jared Cook season. He's up and down.
2 receptions, 25 yards. Did have a touchdown, and he is a red zone threat.
Yeah.
But he's not in the top class of tight ends. And again, rookie and young quarterbacks always need a quality tight end.
Can I make my case once again for Derwin James to be comeback player of the year?
Yes, please do.
2 tackles for loss, 5 solo tackles, and an interception.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better than that in a comeback season, does it?
No. He is the stand-up player on that defence, which is not saying much because
he's still let
Burrows will win comeback player of the year, won't he?
Of
course he will, yeah.
You would have thought so. Where are Denver and the Chargers in the respective positions for the playoffs?
Well, so I'm just looking at that.
Yeah.
So
because they're both 6 and 5.
The Chargers are 7th at the moment.
Yep.
Because they've got a 2-1 divisional record. And it's very similar to the NFC picture, but it's again. So Chargers are in the last position. Then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams with the same number of wins.
Wow.
And then 2 more teams, 1 game back. And the Steelers' draw might actually become quite important.
Yeah.
Because if they somehow put a few wins together, that draw could be the difference maker.
Oh yeah, absolutely good
for them. Which, but yeah, the Colts, for example, we're big on the Colts. They're 6 and 6. They're behind the Broncos on 6-5.
Yeah.
And we're this deep into the season. The Colts are out of the playoffs at the moment.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you had to pick one of these two teams, though, Chargers and Broncos, to make the playoffs, which one do you think makes it?
The current form, the Broncos.
I agree. Their defence is better than the Chargers can put on the field.
Who'd have thought getting rid of Von Miller would make you better on defence?
He's not
I think I'm
been
going to say
fussed.
neither.
Yeah,
I think there's a big chance neither make
but
it.
pick one, get off the fence. Which one?
Chargers. Chargers is the better overall team.
Chargers are the better team, but
Across the
Broncos are in better
season.
form.
Across the season, the Chargers are a better team.
They're a better squad, but the Broncos are doing so much more on defence, and Teddy is just doing Teddy stuff.
What's Teddy got? He's got a run game.
Yes, he has.
He has
Javonte Williams.
Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, two great 1-2 punch. Jerry
Splitting the
Jeudy.
load.
Cortland Sutton is not having a great season.
And Noah Fant as well.
No, but I mean, I think they're being let down by having a very average quarterback. But when they can, it doesn't matter because they can keep moving the ball. They have a great rushing offense.
Summed it up beautifully, I think. That is the end of the reviews for the week. Any other news anyone wants to get to?
Well, I think John got there early with the DK Metcalf foursome story.
We're going to keep going back to that, are we? That's what we feel they need to do.
Well, if Carl Pitts is getting double teamed, he should give DK Metcalf a call.
I was going to mention Stan Kroenke paying £4 billion or whatever it was to.
He paid £1 billion to
settle a lawsuit against
St. Louis.
Yeah.
Was it only $1 billion?
Well, no, but he now had to pay about $6 billion to move the Rams to LA, which
This has been ongoing a while.
It's been going for a long time, and basically the NFL owners suddenly realised they were going to get sued, and Stan Kroenke had originally said he would cover their legal bills and then changed his mind.
That's right.
And I think the other owners might have ganged up on him and said, just settle, because we're not having that. So in the end, it cost him. He basically made a load of interest on the money that he'd already put to one side to pay this off, and then he's paid it off. Because that's what they do.
It did feel like kind of Dr. Evil style.
It really did.
The numbers was actually slightly less than was being bandied around
Right.
a month ago.
Okay. Well, but we knew it was going to be that sort of ballpark. It's ridiculous.
If there is they keep mentioning like an extension to 30 teams. I'd love to see St. Louis. 40 teams, sorry.
Yeah.
I'd love to see St. Louis because St. Louis is a proper sports city.
If Jacksonville can have a franchise, St. Louis should have one.
Yeah, definitely.
40 teams, that's a long way away before you get
Oh, yeah, but I'd like to see St. Louis with a team.
He'll probably put a team in London, though.
Okay.
A couple in Germany.
Yeah.
Possibly so. Right, next week's games then.
Shall I mention the byes?
Yes.
Panthers, Browns, so maybe a rest for Baker.
Yep.
Packers and Titans. Tetons even, sorry.
So really we're only going to miss the Packers next week.
Yeah.
Obviously, Patriots-Bills is one of the biggest games of the season as it goes. And that's on the Monday night kickoff. So really looking forward to that.
Chargers, Bengals is quite important for both teams, I would say.
Sure.
And then also it's Niners, Seahawks as well.
Ooh, it's the Gary Bowl.
So
It's his favourite team against the Niners.
The 1-2 punch of Gary supporting.
Cowboys could do with a win. They're playing what the fuck. Am I a week ahead?
You are a week ahead.
So they're playing the
Yes.
Raiders. That's an important game for playoffs as well.
Yeah.
Broncos, Chiefs, because Chiefs coming off a bye, they need to put the Broncos to bed. And I don't think they necessarily walk them over. I really don't.
Chiefs are fourth now in the AFC.
Yeah.
Cowboys play the Saints, John.
Yeah.
So hopefully
They should
the
win
Cowboys, they should bounce back.
Unless Taysom Hill has a 3-touchdown running game and absolutely blows the doors off them, but I don't think so.
There's a couple of games I'd like to pick out here. The first one being the Giants moving to 5-7, beating the Dolphins.
Don't know. That could be a 9-7 game.
That could be a very close shit game.
Yeah.
There's always one every week.
And the other game I wanted to pick out, just because I think it's going to be very interesting, just in terms of hopefully watching Zach Ertz, DeAndre Hopkins, and Kyler Murray just shower shit all over the Bears. It's going to be amazing.
You'd think they would tear them a new one, wouldn't you?
I'd really hope so.
Yeah.
Because I hate the Bears.
Are you picking the Giants to beat the Dolphins? Then?
Yes.
I don't think so.
I've picked them for the playoffs. They've got to win games.
It's not looking good. You can pay up now if you like.
I said the Cardinals were going to win the division and everyone laughed at me.
That's true.
I don't think everyone laughed at you. I think they just thought the Rams might be better.
Yeah, that's what happened. But you also did beat the Giants.
I think a couple of people laughed at you.
I won't be bothering to listen and go back. Right, well, that's everything for this week. I hope Jim and his arse are feeling better. And we don't think he'll be back next week because it takes a long time to get over diarrhea these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About 10 days, I've heard.
10 days.
About 10 days. That's what.
He's immunised for diarrhea, isn't he?
Doesn't look like it, does it?
I had my chaffed anus vaccination.
Donations of adult nappies are gratefully received in the Green household.
Depends.
Yeah.
That's what the name of them is.
Right. Thank you all and good night.